Hey family, I want to record another video here. This one is going to be about the 5 reasons you should not listen to the manosphere. And I know the manosphere, I generally like it. I'm entertained by it. But there's 5 things that are problems with it. The first one is abandoning the protection of women. What happens is that when you get in the manosphere, men become bitter towards women. And what they do is women will say things like, I don't need no man. Or I can do bad all by myself. Or I can protect myself. And what it has done is men have saying, okay, you on your own. And I can understand that mindset, but the truth is that's an ungodly mindset to abandon women to their own. And so when we as men flee, we literally make the situation worse. Think of it this way. One of the arguments that's always said is that a lot of times the single mothers will raise the sons that eventually become the men that they hate dating. Well, the men who abandon the women create a situation, the fatherless households that create the society that they hate. So the same is true of both sides. The second thing is this. You take women literally when it's convenient, and then you don't take women literally when it's not. So let's think about this. And I always say this, and I think it's 100% true, whether anybody gets offended by it or not. The problem with men is that they know what they want. The problem with women is that they don't. Men know what we want. We have a clear idea in our head what we're attracted to. Women are not like that. They don't always have a clear idea in their head. And they might even say that they do. For example, you might bring up a panel of women, and Fresh and Fit always does is they'll bring a panel of women and they'll say something like, I want a man to cry with me. And we know that that's baloney. No woman wants to see that. No woman wants a sensitive, weak man. They are naturally drawn to a strong male. And that's just the way that God has made them. And so we know not to take that seriously. But then when a woman says something like, I just need you to be there for me. Or I just want you to be honest. I just want you to be upfront. Well, then the manosphere will take that as permission to be as blunt or ruthless as they can. And if you know that, here's the thing you got to understand about women, and this is just true. A lot of times when women will communicate, they will simply be connecting based off of feelings that they have. They are trying to establish a connection, whereas men oftentimes are sharing ideas and exchanging information. And that's just 2 different forms of communication. Neither one of them is bad. But if you think that when you talk to a woman, she's saying the same thing to you, even if you use the same words, it's not the case. So we have to learn how women communicate, and they have to learn how men communicate, and both have to learn each other. One of the problems of society is that oftentimes men are told to learn how women communicate, but women are not told how to learn how men communicate. This is something that needs to be corrected, and I understand that. But let's go to number 4, is that a lot of times there's a lack of confidence to marry. And I know I skipped number 3, but I'll get to it next. There's a lack of confidence to marry. A lot of people are red pill. And what they mean by that is simply, I will never marry a woman. Now, I will sleep with women, but I will not marry them. And that's simply based off of a lack of confidence. And it really is, in their terms, a scarcity-based mindset. But in our terms, we would say it's a fear-based mindset. It's a spirit of fear. I'll lose things if I get married. Now, facts show that this is not the case. Almost all successful men eventually do get married. There's not a president of the U.S. that has not been married. There are CEOs. Almost all the CEOs that we see in the U.S. are married. So the facts are not supporting their argument. But truth is, the Bible didn't make us not to be married. That's just the way that men are supposed to be. The only way that men are supposed to satisfy their sexual urges is to marry. So that is something that cannot be rejected. That goes to number 3, because when you talk about the manosphere, because they do not understand the things of God, they cannot correctly identify the source of the problem. So when we look at the problems in the black community, it is not just black women, right? It is not just black men. Really, when you look at it, the problem is sexual immorality. The reason that we have all these single parent households is because people don't control themselves. People can't control themselves because they don't have God. People don't have God, and that is the core problem. And so without a God to discipline our urges and control us, right? If I didn't have the Spirit of God, I'd be out there like anybody else. but it is because I have the Spirit of God, I have the fruit of self-control, that I'm able to be faithful in a marriage. I'm able to continue to fight in a marriage. But if you don't have that, then what? I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. I'm not saying it's impossible to have a good marriage and not be a Christian, but the point is that you won't be able to identify those core problems with society or with your relationship without God to enlighten you. And then the last one is a lack of accountability for acting like an animal. So what'll happen is you'll have men who are out there and they'll just have these sexual desires and they'll say things like, I got to do something. I got to do something. I got to do something. Well, dude, you ain't got to do nothing, bro. You don't have to look at porn. You don't have to just have sex with whatever is walking past you. That is not the case. You're not an animal. And the thing about it is we need to be rational human beings. Yes, we have an animal part to us. That is true. God says that in his word. But we are given a portion of his spirit to be like him, to be able to reason, to be able to rationalize. And that's something that we need to be able to do. So there's a need for men to be able to control themselves, control their passions, control their anger, control what they think. And so we need to hold men accountable just as we hold women accountable. So those are just 5 things to think about when you look at the manosphere as a man. Hold yourself accountable to the things of God.